Financial well-being. This is a presentation put together by me and you guys, all right? The highlights are, we're going to add more derpy Microsoft Paint icons at the end of here. Live within your means, save now to prosper later, budget wisely, take advantage of deals and opportunities, accrue as little debt as possible, pay off any debt that you do have, and make that your number one priority, and don't get divorced. That's roughly what we'll talk about. First of all, what do you do with your net income? Reminder, your net income is the in-pocket dollars you get after taxes, after your insurance, after all of that other nonsense gets out of the way. In general, you want to try living on 70% of your net income. So what you pocket, live on 70% of it. The remaining 30% you're going to divide into three categories. Your savings, your tithing, if you're faith inclined for your church, or a charity, if you're not. And the remaining 10% goes to an emergency fund. And you want to build up the emergency fund to where it can pay off 3 to 6 months of your expenses. That's the goal with your emergency fund. That's your North Star, if you would. Okay? If you're in a different situation than most people, maybe not even most people, maybe just a different situation than the first set of people. Either you have a lot of debt, or you're able to live rent-free, whether you're living with your parents or you have some kind of deal. Do not squander that opportunity to save even more. So what I would say is, if you have a lot of debt, you want to take an extra 20%, if you can, and put it towards paying off that debt. And then if you're living at home or you have a good deal, change the 10% savings to 30% savings. So if you're living with your parents, 30% of your net income should be going towards saving for moving out, basically. In my opinion, whether it's renting a place or buying a place. Okay? The last point on this slide is, do not spend more than 33% of your net income on rent mortgage. So if you get $1,000 from a month, no more than $333 of it should be going to your living expenses. Now that's like not realistic, because hopefully you're getting more than $1,000 a month, but you get the general idea. That's what you do with your net income. Slide 1. Slide 2, let's go over budgeting. I really only have one key thing and a bunch of sub-bullets to do here. Download and use Mint. Mint is an amazing website. It will help you budget, and it will help automate your budgeting so it's not a pain. I am not endorsed or sponsored by Mint. I have just used it personally for about almost 10 years. And it's free, and it's awesome. The first step is connect your bank accounts, connect your credit cards, connect your PayPal, whatever you use that involves money going to and from yourself as an entity. See, Christy uses Mint. I know some other people in the chat also use Mint, so that's pretty awesome. Okay? The next thing you want to do as soon as you set it up and connect it is build your categories and your budgets. And we'll go over an example of that in the next slide. Do not borrow from other budgets. Do not set a budget for something, be halfway through the month, and realize, I'm just going to borrow from another budget for this budget. Do not do that. That is a bad habit. You will get email alerts and set them up if you, and just be ready to look at them if you overspend. So if you overspend in a category, maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not, you can get emails that remind you, which you can look at and identify quickly what's going on. And sometimes Mint will just miscategorize something, so keep that in mind too. If you have any annual expenses, make sure you set those up properly within the platform, because they can accommodate for that too. Be wary of your everything else budget. Mint will create an everything else budget. I think it's important to have an everything else budget for like little miscellaneous weird things that aren't monthly payments, like like paying for parking or like weird things like that. And then also you can set rollover budgets. So for example, we'll talk about this in the next thing. Be strategic about your rollover ones. Here's an example of a budget. We use $1,000 of net income monthly as an example. And this is a fictitious scenario, so don't read too much into these exact dollar amounts, but this just gives you an idea. So, but I want to touch on this last point, this rollover piece, okay? Rolling over a budget. If you have clothes set up to be a rollover budget, and you want to buy a $60 suit, let's say it's January, don't spend any money on clothes in January. It's now February. You now have an $80 budget for clothes because you set it to roll over. So you can now buy that $60 suit that you want and have $20 left over for February to spend for clothes. Hopefully that makes sense as a concept for the rollover stuff. And I might just have a whole other session on how to use Mint, although I'd want to make a dummy account because I don't want to use my own real financial stuff. That's way too invasive. But anyway, so here's an example. So we have, like we said, we're living on 70% of our net income. This budget is based on our net income, not our gross income. Please take note of that. $100 of it goes to savings, $100 goes to tithing or charity, $100 goes to emergencies. Those are non-negotiable. This is the part of the budget, the budget that doesn't budge. I like how budget and budge are similar, so I wanted to incorporate them like that. Roughly a third or less is being used towards your rent or your mortgage. You have food, entertainment, gas, phone/internet, utilities, health/wellness, clothes, and an other category. Okay? David the Minty Boy. That's me, Mint v. Kimball. You guys have my name right. Knocking down language barriers, one butchered word at a time. Hey, I can say words in other languages decently, Fraud, okay? So that's an example of a budget that you can apply to yourself. Now, these categories will change depending on your experience, the things that you need to buy, your particular environment, maybe your health costs are a little more high because you have a certain condition. So think about all these things and how they apply. And by the way, this can change over time. This doesn't have to be fixed. If you find you could spend a little bit less in entertainment, hopefully that's like the case. You can spend more on something more important like health or food, right? So hopefully you can manage that and just do your best month to month. Make budgeting your friend, not your enemy. Oh my gosh.
Value content right here, boys.
Thank you so much, Notorious, for the $15 donation. I really appreciate that a lot. Also, welcome back, Notorious. Thank you. That is super cool of you. I really appreciate that. Big time. Okay, I'm going to move on now because we're doing this plus $15 spending money. So what Notorious has just done is he's allocated spending money, and this $15 that he's donated to me is part of his budget. I'm sure he has that all set up. What is the financial benefit of 10% for charity? I'll address that at the end of this presentation. Shopping and spending. Don't let me forget, Justin. Don't let me forget. So when you shop and when you spend, do research. I don't care if you're in a store. I don't care if you're online. Always, never just buy something is what I'm trying to say. If you're in a store and you're tempted to buy something, do a Google search on your phone. Find what that product is on Amazon or a competing store, and then make your decision. You might find that something on Amazon is roughly the same price. Go ahead and buy it. Or you might find, wow, it is way cheaper on Amazon. I'm going to wait. I'm going to go home. And either you will wait, you will go home, you will go on that webpage, and you will realize you didn't need that product as much as you thought you did, or you will buy it for a cheaper price. It is a win-win. There is no bad scenario there. Always research and compare. Never impulse buy. Ever. And sometimes stores block your internet signal, so step outside the store, do the search, then go back in. Seriously, do that exercise. Use Honey, and I'm not sponsored by them, but if you use Honey, which is a browser extension, it will tell you about the best deals possible when you're at the checkout section of the store. Always Google coupons. If you're buying something and there's a little field on your checkout page that says, use coupon code, Google, service, what coupon codes are there? Half the time they don't work. Sometimes they do work. If they do work, that's a free 20% off or 50% off or $10 off or whatever. Always worth it. Use store cards that have no annual fees. Costco does have a fee, but it can make sense sometimes. For a single guy like me, it doesn't. But if you have a family and you buy in bulk, it might make sense for you. I use a Safeway card. Fred Meyer card gives you discounted gas sometimes. You can get a Target Red card. I like how I completely misspelled Target. Those are some examples. You might as well. There's no annual fee. You are only saving money in certain ways. Use the library when you can. So there's a digital library app that I learned about today that you can use in place of buying books or buying like media. I use lynda.com for free through my library. Usually lynda.com is a learning resource that's a monthly payment and it's behind a paywall. But through my library card specifically, I can access it for free. So in general, on that note, go to your library and see if there are any resources that you can get for free that you normally have to pay for. Lastly, use fast food apps. You all go to fast food sometimes or some kind of guilty pleasure place. Download their app and make a rule for yourself. If you do go to fast food places, only use a deal. That's a rule that I impose on myself. So I only go to Wendy's, I only go to Burger King or McDonald's or Chick-fil-A if I have some kind of deal or I'm using their app. That's the only circumstance I'll do it. Okay? The next item is credit cards and banking. If you do not have a bank account, get one immediately. Turn off this stream. Well, don't turn it off. We'll finish and then turn it off. Make a bank account and also get a credit card. I don't care how much you want to use it. I hate credit cards big time. I abhor credit cards, but they're so important. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. But what you do is you get a credit card. And if you're in high school or if you're in college, just use it for paying gas if you drive a car. And then immediately pay it off. You can build your credit that way, improve your credit score. Use it for nothing else. Just do that one thing. Pay off the full amount every month as soon as possible, and then use it exactly as a debit card. Don't even think of it as a credit card. Use it like a debit card, okay? And by that I mean spend only money that you have that's in your bank account. Never, ever think about spending money you don't have, period. The last option is privacy.com. It's that you can make a free account. You can get up to 12 special cards. If you pay for something like Netflix or Spotify and you have reoccurring payments, you can create a card specifically for that service and then cap it at that monthly amount. So you'll never be overcharged. And if your information ever gets compromised, if your Spotify account gets hacked or the information gets leaked from their servers or something, they're getting a burner card, so your information is safe. If you ever buy an item on a sketchy website, you can create a temporary card with the exact amount you need for that product on that sketchy website, and you are a lot safer and a lot better off. Use privacy.com. It's free. It's awesome. They are not a sponsor. Next slide. What makes a good credit score? Kind of building off of that credit point. On-time payments. If you're following the steps where you're treating your credit card like a debit card, you should always have on-time payments. Your credit usage, you should use basically none of it if you can. The lower the better. Use almost none of it. Same reason that I said for the previous one. The average age of your credit. If you're getting your card now, if you don't have one, or if you got one in high school or early college, the average age of your credit is going to be better and better and better with age. Do not close old accounts for that reason. The number of total accounts, the more is better, but I would say don't worry about this metric. It's more detrimental than it is helpful in improving your score. Only get the number of accounts that you need. The next one is the number of credit inquiries. Don't go through official means to ask what your credit score is. It's not worth it. Mint generates an approximation of your credit score, which is perfectly fine and helpful. So again, just use mints. Don't actually do that, because the more that you inquire about your credit score through official means, the more that marks negatively on your credit score. And then lastly, number of derogatory remarks. So you shouldn't have any derogatory remarks if you follow these steps, but sometimes through things outside of your control, that can be done. So like if robbery is involved, or you get compromised, or anything like that can affect that sometimes. But in general, you shouldn't have to worry about that if you follow everything else, okay? This slide is all about college and university, which is a huge financial strain for so many people. And by the way, I say because people that think they need to go to university and college don't always need to. There are trade schools. There are so many other opportunities to make decent money without going to college and university. It's not one or the other. You're not going to be successful. You're not only going to be successful if you go to college and university. There's plenty of ways to be successful through another medium. And I hope that people realize that and stop spending themselves into oblivion. All right, but if you are deciding to go to university or college, the first thing you should be doing, I don't care about your friends, I don't care about your hobbies, you make it your freaking obsession to hunt and look for scholarships. All kinds of them. You can literally Google scholarships. That's how accessible they are. You can get them based on your SAT scores, your ACT scores, your ACT scores, okay? Frankie, thank you very much for the host. I appreciate that. So how well you do can actually determine a good scholarship for you depending on the university that you go to. There's merit-based, so maybe you did very well in high school specifically and you have a good GPA. There's extracurricular activity-based ones, so if you do drama or you do some kind of sport or art or something like that, you can apply for specific activity-based scholarships. But make sure you do it really early, because you can't do it like a month before you start university. You got to do it well in advance. There's also ones based on immutable characteristics. So if you have a certain ethnicity or of a certain gender, sometimes you can get scholarships just for that. So again, don't be reserved about the kinds of scholarships you can get. Take advantage of everything you possibly can. The last one is student leadership opportunities. So if you get involved in student leadership, in activity stuff or government, something like that, you can often find really good stuff there. That'll sometimes involve running if they hold like elections or something like that. So just figure that out, and it'll be different for every university. The other thing you should consider, if there's a dream school, like a dream 4-year university you want to go to that you can't necessarily afford, think about going to a 2-year community college or getting credits in high school to then work up to going to that university. And there's 2 things you need to think about. Will the credits transfer over is kind of the big one. And then the other one is it economically feasible? After 2 years of community college, can you still afford those 2 years of 4-year university? Okay? Be really thoughtful about those things. If you're at university and you're in college, try to get a job on campus if you can, because it'll be a lot more flexible for you. If you have a big test coming up, they'll generally be more understanding if you need to take time off at random times, and they'll probably offer you more flexible hours too. So think about that. There's this idea that, oh man, I want to focus on my academics. I want to focus on my education. I don't really want to work. I get that. I get you don't want to work, and I get that you want to maybe focus on your education, but I would say that's not a great excuse. Depending on what you're studying, right? There's certain majors and there's certain industries that are a lot more intensive than others. So there's always exceptions. But I would say in general, even if it's like 10 hours a week, something really minimal, do something, because you'll be paying on principal and you won't be paying on the debt, because as soon as you graduate, to go to the last bullet point, you'll be paying, interest will start kicking in, and you basically will want to pay as much as you can while you're in school. So get a job on campus if you can. The last point is weigh the benefits of on-campus living versus commuting, right? Living on campus can be a great experience, but it can also be really, really expensive. So keep in mind that commuting is an option also. The second to last slide is around investments and investing. And I would say, before I say anything, I have a bullet point here, talk to a financial advisor about what's best for you. But I will go over kind of what I do and what I found to be helpful, and talk to your financial advisor at least about a Roth IRA, because I'd say universally a Roth IRA is just a good thing to invest in. There are some downsides. There are some other opportunities to invest in other things. But some benefits are you can withdraw tax-free at retirement. So this is thinking very long-term, but it's still a huge benefit when we get there. The only way that would be a disadvantage is if taxes went down, and taxes are never going down, because you know our government, all right? There's an annual contribution limit to it, so you can only put in a certain amount of dollars per year, but in my opinion, still absolutely worth the investment. You can treat it as a savings account, okay? So Roth IRA, you're gonna go to your financial advisor and ask them about a Roth IRA. The second piece is a life insurance policy. I would recommend looking into that. It can be seen as a last resort, but it's mostly for life insurance. I mean, life insurance is another topic, but again, I would ask your financial advisor about the best approach for that. And then a company 401k. So sometimes if you're employed with a company, they'll have a 401k you can take advantage of. And what's nice about that is, let's go back to budgeting for a second. If you're super bad about budgeting and doing the 10% of savings piece, you can automate that fully. So you can say, all right, so on this 401k, I want 10% of my paycheck, or more if you want to talk about net income, to go to my 401k. And then you don't even have to think about it. And it can be done for you. And then after a certain number of years, or a certain percentage of it might be matched by your company. Ask your company about this. Make sure you get all the details before you just do it. But can be really helpful for saving. The last thing I would say is look into Acorns or Robinhood, which are 2 services that kind of take small amounts of money and invest them for you. I would not consider that a serious form of investing. I would use it more as like a tool, like an education tool, to become more aware of the stock market and what's happening there. And again, always consult your financial advisor before you do any of that. But if you can't, try dabbling in that a little bit. The last slide is some miscellaneous stuff. So when it comes to cars, when you're weighing buying it outright versus a down payment on cars, never ever buy a car brand new. It is not worth it at all. I don't care how cool it is. I don't care how much you want it. Buying a car brand new is silly. I would say at the newest, buy a car that's at least 5 years old, because of the 50% depreciation it will have. Again, thank you Synapse for pointing that out, and for Mikhailovich for also confirming that. With buying older cars, though, especially ones that are older than 10 years old, expect larger expenses to come up. So when you think about budgeting for your car, think about how you can do that better and allow more flexibility if you have an older car, I would say. Because you're probably buying it for a lot cheaper. What I did was I bought my 2 cars that I've had, one 10 years ago and one 2 years ago, with cash. And I've had to add a much bigger budget for my car to accommodate for what I'm saving on not buying a newer car. That's what I did. But if you want a newer car, just be thinking about those things. When it comes to renting or buying a home, I would say if possible, definitely buy a home. That's not always feasible, and depending on your situation, not always wise. But the main reason for that is when you buy a home and you're paying towards a mortgage, you're actually investing in something that's under your control. You can decide if it's a bigger place, like a bigger condo or a house. You can decide to rent it out to somebody else. You can decide to get a roommate on your terms. You can decide to sell it and move somewhere else on your terms. When you are renting, you're living in a space that you're borrowing, essentially. You're basically throwing your money away every month. It's not going anywhere. That's advantageous for you. And then at any point, the owner of the building can say, oh, I need to move. I need you to move out by 30 days or whatever the contract you signed. And you're at the mercy of this person to be in that space. Now, again, depending on where you are, okay, depending on your situation, that can vary a bit. But in general, I would say that's the approach. When it comes to buying tech, this is another scenario. Do not buy cheap tech. Period. It can cause a lot of waste of time and a lot of frustration. Not worth it. Never buy the cheapest thing. I'm not saying always buy expensive tech. I'm just saying never buy the cheapest thing. Okay? Also, do not buy used. I would say you can get a good deal sometimes, and you can get something that works great. But in my opinion, there are too many variables to go wrong, and you don't know what has happened to that device. And so for the same reason, I would say not to buy cheap tech. You might get wasted time and frustration through it. Do not buy used tech. Invest in something really solid when it comes to tech, because whether you're tech illiterate or not, tech is enveloping more of our lives, and it's only going to become more of a constant. So you need to make sure you're investing in something that's solid. Also, on the flip side of that, do not buy something overpowered for your use case. Do a lot of research. All right? Do plenty of research. If you don't know what something means, Google it. There's tons of videos out there. There's really not much of an excuse for just saying, oh, I don't understand it. If you are investing in tech and you need tech for your job or for whatever, it is your prerogative and it is your responsibility to understand it. All I'm going to say is do not cheap out on tech. The last piece, which is very different from the other things. Do not get divorced. This probably does not apply to most of you, but if you're married for a number of years and you're used to a certain lifestyle, it is very painful. Well, it's painful for a lot of reasons, emotionally, spiritually, all that stuff. But from a financial perspective, it's very painful to go from living your current lifestyle to having to live to 50% of your current lifestyle. It will involve, you'll have to move somewhere cheaper. You'll have to buy less nice things. You'll have to be more saving on food. And it's crippling for your lifestyle. So another way to phrase this is, think very carefully about the person you marry. Have all the right conversations so you know you're a good fit. And look, sometimes divorce does happen. So it's not completely avoidable. But I would say do everything in your power. Anyone that's been touched by divorce knows the tragic implications of it. And from a financial perspective, it's not anywhere less tragic. So just be careful. Yes. That is the entire presentation. I'm now going to read over some of the questions that I got during the presentation. Hello, Master Wex. Thank you for being here. These are all great common sense tips. Great PowerPoint. Thank you. I am still live, Sonic. You bet. I had to give an overview of everything. Just want to drive home the point about paying while in school. 5% interest on $100,000 is $5,000. 5% on $75K is $3,700. $1,250 that you don't have to pay right off the bat. So let that sink in. There are literally thousands of dollars of a difference between if you're paying while you're in school versus if you pay after school when the interest kicks in. Buying a gas car is silly. Buying a Tesla is smart. I wonder why on earth you say that. Boyko! Is that you? Boykish, is that you, Boyko? How's it going? Thank you so much for being here. Selling a home is not always on your terms. And an amortization schedule means you are stuck there for a long time before you start gaining equity. Excellent point. That's very true. And also we have Lolly, who's another homeowner in here. At least out of my way at this point, but a mortgage is so much cheaper than rent. It's getting a bit ridiculous. That's funny. Yeah, sometimes it can be. So depending on like your town and your city where you are, it can end up being that way. Truth, I learned the hard way from cheap tech. Okay, see, everyone that's bought something crappy knows what I'm talking about when it comes to cheap tech. Mortgage also means you pay taxes and are responsible for upkeep. It does, Boyko, but it depends on what you mean by upkeep. The property taxes suck. Absolutely. Good reminder about buying. But I have a condo, so I don't do any upkeep outside. I don't pay for the like roof repairs or the lawn repairs. I'm only responsible for what's inside my walls, which to me is all the difference. So I'm relatively responsible, and I don't mark things up or break things in my house. So I am perfectly happy with being responsible for that end of the upkeep, and fine with someone else worrying about the lawn and like the roof and anything outside, which is subject to the weather and random people walking by and all that stuff. So I think a condo works best for me, and I recommend condo to really any young adult at this point. How's it going, Pop the Kirby? Thanks for being here. $1 iWatch. No, do not go to, what is it? What's that website? Dang it. There's a website, like a really sketchy website that's notorious for like those knockoff stuff. There are so many cons to buying a home, and everyone just buys into the whole I don't want to pay someone else's mortgage mindset, which has proven flawed in the current economic climate. Again, I preface it in the beginning by saying everyone's situation is different and depends on the city you're in. But I would say buying a condo is a lot of the pros of buying a home and without a lot of the cons. So, again, but also you have condo dues sometimes you have to pay. So there's pros and cons to a lot of it. But I would say in general, buying is still better than renting. I would still say buying is better than renting. Instead of getting divorced, get a prenup. Preventative rather than responsive. I mean, that's a good point. It's kind of an awkward conversation to have, but from a practicality perspective, having a prenup is a good idea. I agree with that. And again, if you are fully committed to the person you're with and they're on the same mindset as you, they will agree to a prenup. I think with the idea of, hey, let's assume this never happens, but if it does, let's be smart about this. Let's be practical about this. Like, what if a demon possesses you and you become a completely different person, right? Have that mindset. Don't be like, I can't believe you want a prenup. That means we have no faith in our marriage. Look, life is nuts, all right? Life is crazy. Anything can happen. Almost anything can happen. So, yes. Better yet, talk about finances in depth and come up with a sustainable plan before you get married. No divorce. Exactly, Donnie. I think we all want to get there. But that's a really important point. Talk about everything. Get marriage counseling. Do whatever you need to do to make sure there's no stone left unturned. I think you're setting yourself up for success at that point. This should be a YouTube video. It's good stuff. I'm going to make it a YouTube video, Wex. Thank you for saying that. Welcome back, Scott. Thanks for being here. Wish. That's exactly it, Christy. It is Wish. 100% is the website app. Yes. Since David didn't see this, I'll chat it again. Another tip. If you're buying a game digitally, buy a digital code on Amazon, then you don't have to pay taxes for the digital code on Amazon. Wait, what? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you clarify that point, Luigi? And then, by the way, to my tech point, when I say don't buy used tech, that really applies to things like cell phones and laptops and computers and things, not to game consoles. Game consoles have relatively one or two main purposes, and if they don't work, it's not going to cost you your job or a communication opportunity or anything related to productivity. So I would not put game consoles and game stuff in the same category as not buying used tech. Feel free to buy used tech when it comes to game stuff, in my opinion. Found a gold 3D printed Waluigi on Wish for $15. That is hilarious, Rod. There's some great stuff on Wish, though. Not electronics, but some great nerd stuff. At your own risk, I will say navigate Wish at your own risk. Reminder about the financial benefit of 10% for charity. Thank you, Justin, for reminding me. In the beginning, I talk about giving 10% for Tyler or charity. The financial benefit, the pure financial benefit, is actually based in my presuppositions about faith and about God, and it comes from my faith. There are a lot of other benefits to donating to charity. that are not financial, and I won't talk about those because I think they apply whether you're secular or whether you're a person of faith or not. But I truly believe that the Lord will bless you for doing things like that, right? So if you give back to the church, I think he'll give back to you through life and through means. So I think you're intrinsically rewarded for giving from a very spiritual perspective. So if you're not a member of faith, if you're not a believer, right, I don't expect you to really engage with that at all. So to answer your question, the 10% of tithing to charity is for the betterment of your fellow man, right? It's not for your financial well-being. It is to help anyone that can't see these tips. It's to help anybody that isn't able to, that's not able, like, doesn't have a functioning brain, right? There's so many people in so many worse circumstances than you and I that I think 10% to charity, while from a purely secular perspective doesn't seem advantageous to do, you're going to find returns in so many other areas. And I would argue you will find financial returns on them too, because God blesses that. And there's countless examples of that in the Bible. So if you adhere to the Bible, you will get investments, and I can prove it. If you don't believe in the Bible, you'll get financial responses back, and I can't prove it. Basically is my answer to that. You can also buy digital codes on Reddit and GameSale. Yes, research. Wex, if you can think of more good places to get good discounts and codes, absolutely let us know. It was for the budgeting section, I think, but essentially, digital codes for digital games on Amazon are tax-free, as opposed to buying them on their respective digital stores, where even for the digital version, you still gotta pay tax. That is a hilarious little hack, Luigi. I'll have to remember that. Man, I'm learning so much from this too. You forgot what section. Charity could also be helping someone out. A coworker the other day needed to pay for a funeral, and I and the other coworkers chipped in. Exactly. Charity could be, you could think of the 10% for tithing or charity as emergencies in service of others. That's a way you can think about it, right? Emergencies in service of others. And now Link is investing in a Donkey Kong. Excellent investment. Very cool. Very cool. And by the way, David V points specifically in this Twitch channel only increase in value over time. So they're an excellent investment. I have to sing their praises. Let's go, DK. Well, that basically wraps up the Q&A section of this, I think. But I do need to make some more terrible Microsoft Paint icons for our highlights here.